James.
Michael, for the 100th time. Technically 101, but officially 100.
Wow. It's 100 because remember the high school reunion episode. As much as it was it's kind of like when you're born, Jim. You're not actually a year old that day, but it starts the first year of your life.
And it'll be the
Well,
last episode of the Wise Guy Sports Show.
well, I mean, we are geriatric at this point in time. I mean, what the fuck? You know,
Well,
there's
if
talk about
everyone
college.
else seems to be retiring, we can go out on mid, certainly not on top, but on mid.
I don't think we'd have it any other way, though.
Welcome everyone to the 2025 Wisey Awards. Um, and we've said it before, we will say it again. It will come up multiple times. Episode 100. Thank you, everyone. We're gonna remember the first part of the show before we get into the awards, which will sprinkle throughout the night. We don't have really. It's not a traditional Wisey format as you guys have watched on any time of the now year 3 of the Wisey Awards. We don't do a hat trick. We don't do a grand slam. We don't do a blast. We don't do a translator. Um, there's really no news tonight because it's quite honestly the slowest week of the entire sporting year, it seems. Um, we got some games going on, but we'll just be, presenting awards. And tonight especially, we're going to look back on, certainly not by video, but Mike and I are certainly going to be talking about the past 100 episodes.
We will give you score updates as the Cavaliers are playing the Memphis Grizzlies tonight in Cleveland. The Cavs with a halftime lead on one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Donovan Mitchell feeds Max Strus, and all of a sudden he's walking toward the damn locker room. At the half, it is Cleveland 62, Memphis 56. But Jim, talk about 100. It's a big milestone, kind of feeling our age in the show. And my father says, well, you're in your middle 40s today when I'm talking to him. I'm like, you son of a bitch. Although my exchange with your father today may have been one of the highlights of the day.
Which may or may not make an appearance at some point tonight.
Maybe that's
Michael, where is that game happening tonight?
Oh, well, that depends. It depends what you think. Apparently, they're trying to call it Roar now because it's Rocket Arena. But here with the Wise Guys, it's Nomo Romo Fijo.
Thank you, Alan Cox.
Yes, Alan Cox, you are a absolute fucking gem. But Jim, we were talking about before we came on, and I went and watched back our high school reunion episode, which was really the antithesis of all this. For those who don't know, Jim and I have known each other over 30 years. Been very close for the last, basically 26 of them. I'll tell you what, when I browbeat the piss out of him to get him on to a Big Rican episode, I did not know it would turn into this. And then we were talking after that episode, like, let's do this once a month. And he was like, I'm down, but what size hat do you wear? Out of fucking nowhere. This is the conversation. And the actual first episode of The Wise Guys is called What's in the Box? And this is what was in the box. My Big Rican hat with my now Wise Guys logo on the side. So, Jim, some of your favorite moments from
the original iteration of the Wise Guys logo. It's
yes.
It changed a little over a year ago, and we were contemplating doing it, and we just we like our logo too much. We actually had that conversation yesterday.
Yeah, we really do. And I gotta say, Jim, some of my favorite memories from the past 100 episodes is really the creation ones. Like the night we were on with John, and he says, you guys should do an award show. Here we are.
Off air.
Wisey's. Yeah. Of course, the first Wisey's was the first episode back from our longest hiatus because I had to go and move.
There was part of me that actually just wanted to kind of be an asshole and be like, okay, This is episode 100. Next week, we take it all the way back to the beginning. I'm set up in the living room, and Mike is going back to New York.
I'll fight you. The reason. All right. Speaking of fond memories, we have, of course, the OTR to end all OTRs when Alex and I were making fun of Jim's dating life. We have,
which was our winner, not last year. Wait, was it last year?
2024. It was the winner for 2024. I mean, there has been so much fun had. And listen, we've also covered a lot. We remarked all of 2024 that we really did not have many OTRs because it was such a content-heavy year. I got to shrink my screen down. There we go. It's moving slow tonight. I think Xfinity knows I'm pissed at.
For what you did yesterday, but yeah, it's the guests that we've had on our first guest. Alex. The first time I ever met Alex, and then the Godfather himself, Mr. Willie
Yes,
Epstein Jr. from the Shakeback Media Group, and that was Alex Ruiz from the Row 7 podcast, friend of show, brother of show, and the Godfather, aka Uncle Willie, and then we actually had another bit of a high school reunion as the sporting Sith John Rice joined us. Somewhere I want to say he was in the 60s.
I think it was
And
before that because that. Oh no, that was a big Rican show because that was the preview of the 2021 Ohio State, the preview of the 2021 CFP.
and
Or
John
22
has been
excuse me.
and John has been with us multiple times as early and as late as 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
And also joined by probably Mike's favorite guest of all time, his son Zach.
yeah. That was, and the fights are starting to get hot and heavy again. So him and I will have to talk about him getting on.
We'll definitely have him back on as things start to heat up, and also, quite honestly, one of my favorite guests. No disrespect to anybody else, but just the way that things kind of went off the rails, really as quickly as they did. And we hope he's doing well, and we want to get him back on before too long. And that was Mr. Patrick McGuire from the Cleveland Sports Report, and you know if you follow him on social media, he's doing well. He moved last year. We tried to get him on last year. Things fell through. We got some guests that we would like to kind of line up this year. We've got apparently the ungettable get that we want to try and get this year.
She's the Matt Damon to our Jimmy Kimmel.
Which he doesn't stalk us and try and hold us hostage.
Although if she came on here eating an apple and asking us how the awards went, that'd be quite funny.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the awards, I meant to tell you, we're probably going to lose some audience tonight as Kristen Bell is hosting the SAG Awards tonight. So a lot of people who would watch us are probably watching the SAG Awards tonight. So have fun, watch us on the rerun. Not that I think anybody who watches the SAG Awards actually watches us, but hey, it seemed good. I got to tell you though, I think my most favorite moment that we have had outside of Zachary, of course, that's just a different animal. And I've been thinking about it for a couple of days, but my most favorite memory is that first draft reaction down here. When you looked into the camera and you said, put that in the Wisey translator, Sanika Wallace. So, that was, sorry, my angle looked bad for my selfie. I think that was my favorite moment of all the moments we've had.
60, I want to say it's 67 episodes later. We've now got 4 supercuts of the Wisey Chronicle on the Wisey translator.
I mean, it's just that's been one of my favorite parts. I mean, just some of the ones that we had. I mean, that first one with John, when the three of us just made each other laugh the entire time, and then because it's gone from just a gag to being introspective to giving analysis off the top of our heads.
It's almost like there are times where it turns into almost a second blast just because
It
of the
really
way that
does.
we're breaking things down when we're not just trying to, make the other break a la, our truth or Santino Morella at that point, just trying to see how far you can push that envelope.
Can I be our truth, please?
Racist making the paisano Santino Morella.
Is he the one that ran into the rumble and got knocked out right away?
Yes,
Okay,
the record
that
setter, 1 second. He's
that's
currently the commissioner of authority in TNA. And his daughter works there too.
oh, that's funny.
He's 50.
Are you serious, dude? I mean, and here we're talking about Santino Morella and our truth. And if you think about the topics that we have hit, because when we started this, it was going to be mainstream. It was going to be hockey, college football, NFL, baseball, NBA, and then we have gone to wrestling. We had a whole, basically 3/4 of an episode dedicated to a UFC fight. So as we keep expanding and as we keep adding to what I like to call the bag, uh, with the different clubs that we have in it, this is just going to get more and more fun. We've talked about it before. We've talked about it on here. This is 2 hours that you and I both look forward to the entire week. Oh,
2 hours. That's adorable.
that's
We
weird.
haven't been under 2 hours in 6 months.
That's true. Oh, oh God. What about you? What's some of your favorite moments that we've had?
um, Naturally, the translator. Um, Honestly, for me, it's been. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to sound selfish here, but it was this show giving me the confidence to spin off and kind of do my own show, and just all the design and the tech work that goes into it, the editing of the graphics, the designing of the logo, changing my logo, changing the website, editing the intro, every time we have a special show like this, even though it's a couple little tweaks and it took me 15 minutes to do, it's still 15 minutes of just editing. And number one, giving my Switch a rest, not playing Warframe for 7 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. Um, it was 4.5 today. But um, but just everything that we've kind of morphed with, the technology, the graphics, the content, the fact that we were doing this with just the webcams on our Chromebooks and just the in-house microphones. Now we've actually got microphones. We've got lighting. We've got setups. I was in my living room. You had the banner sitting above a closet. Now you're actually in your living room, but you got a better setup here with this. I've
Yeah.
got my lights. I've got my camera dimmed. I've got my microphone. I've got a ring light off to my side here. I've got a soundboard on my phone, just with everything that it's progressed with in 3 years.
We've spent a fucking shit ton of money too.
Leave me flying out of certain places that we will not name tonight out of this.
Well, it's a Hall of Famer. I'm sure we can go back to it just for.
That was the 2023. That was the 2024 Wisey Hall of
Oh,
Fame. There will be a new inductee for the
there is.
2025 Wisey Hall of Fame this evening.
That's correct. And this year's Wisey's unlike the first. The first year was us being funny about this. The second year we got a little more introspective. We gave away awards that mattered. And then we took some shots at things. This year, I think there's only going to be two categories that are actually poking fun. We actually broke down this year, and what was it? We were on the phone for like 2 hours or so that Saturday.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned at the end of the Super Bowl preview with John, this is the only episode Jim and I write. Normally, our process is Thursday mornings, about 5 minutes to 8. I put my earbuds in at my desk. I hit his thing on my favorites, speed dial to Jim. And while he's driving his car to either Fresh Time or work, we go, we're going to do A, B, C, and D. We're going to do A, B, and C in the hat trick. These couple things for the blast. Translator, get out the door. And then we don't shut the fuck up, so it's 2 hours. But that's a different animal entirely.
And it's hilarious because we've got the whole show basically planned out completely unless we got something that breaks on Friday or Saturday. The show is basically done and written by Thursday at 9:30 a.m. between us messaging after I get into the office. And yet what's funny is that we still are never ready to go on time. We're changing chyrons. That's a lot of that's my fault, but it's like, you know, that's why tonight is even more special is because Michael and I looked at each other and said, "Oh, can we go up early?" And we were 2 minutes early tonight.
Well, I mean, you did say this could be the springboard to a new world, James. Not that I think the. Oh, we deserve something else for that.
Yeah,
By the way,
that one's going to get
okay.
played multiple times this evening.
Could you hear that? Okay.
It was a little faded out.
Okay, because it's like the mic is here and the phone is here.
Yeah. That's going to be the next day. Little selfie stick from Five
Nice.
Below that with an extender arm.
Well, I took the new because when the new Chromebook came in, I told you I got the stand. I got the new cord, which I actually take with me, not next week, but the week after when I go to Atlanta. Um, that's going to be what I take this to charge the phone. But it's got the different things you move the cord for. It's got the one for the Amazon or for the Apple. It's got the USB-C for this. So I took some of that stuff to work, and I'm sitting here going, I can really use that right now. Did you just flip my camera?
Yeah, I did because it's like I noticed that you were backwards.
That's like most of my life, dude. Where the fuck?
Oh shit! I think I'm flipped too. Oh wait, no, I'm not.
Wait, which shirt are you wearing?
The Lacuna Coil that I actually wore on the first episode because that jersey was worn on the uh, high
What's
school
the bottom?
reunion.
Oh, okay. Um, I refuse to wear what I wore on the high school reunion episode.
Yeah, Michael wore Cleveland Browns gear that night.
As soon as he's gone, I will break it all out again. By the way, we had to give Caitlin's little one the brown shirts that we got over the summer from Mel and Rick because they're too small on him. He's growing like fucking weed, dude. Think about this. You and I did the first episode, did the high school episode in October of 2021. Bobby was 6 months old. Bobby's going to be 4 in April. He says hi, by the way.
He's asleep. But I will be saying hi to him the next time I talk to you.
Oh yeah, I said, Bobby, early bed tonight. He goes, show with Jim. Very good. Oh, so what do you say?
But just all the laughs. We've been serious. We dedicated an entire episode to Jim Donovan.
Yeah.
That was probably the hardest show I've had to go through.
That was the hardest show that I've had to do in general since I did my Tom Seaver tribute when Tom Seaver passed away. And I almost didn't make it through that one. And the same thing with Jim Donovan. I almost didn't make it through that one either. We've done a Wisey Sports Network Revisited episode.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, since the last time we came to you 2 weeks ago, please check the link at the bottom of your screen. The Big Weekend on Sports has now gone blog form.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than trying to find shit to talk about. Uh, but I have I think it's 6 or 7.
6 in the can in a little over 2 weeks.
I've had a lot to talk about. And the topics, I mean, everything from my rant about the Myles Garrett trade request to my thoughts on the 2 coaches who recently won championships in both college football and the NFL, to the return of the Cleveland Rockers. And now the most recent one, of the one that went up yesterday, is my thoughts on ESPN losing another sport to their implicit stupidity. So take a look. It's got the parental advisory thing on it because I do not censor my language, especially in the Browns one. Even John was shocked I went there.
Here's what's funny. When we first started doing this show, there was no profanity, and these were on Mike's channel because they were tuned to YouTube for kids.
Yeah, because of course my niece and nephew listen to my show, so I had to do it that way. So it was nice. And then I was like, "Yo, Jim and I are really censoring ourselves way too much."
And we actually had to go. What did we call it? Wise Guys After Dark or something like that. And then we ended up going on my channel and pulled the curtain back, and all the filters came off. And then midway through year 2, we're like, we got to set it. Midway through year 1. Midway through year 1, we're like, we got to actually we got to start our own channel. We got to rip the Band-Aid off here.
Yeah, and that's really where the Wise Guys took off from there, because it became. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it, that the Wise Guys became the priority to me, even over Big Rican stuff. Because I was 100+ episodes into Big Rican by the time we started doing this, and it just became. Speaking of things that happen on here.
Contractually obligated.
He jumped through the TV tray that I used to hold the thing up. But yeah, Big Rican took a back seat, partially because of my work schedule, but mostly because of I was putting all my thoughts on the topics into Sunday. Well, whatever night of the week we were doing. So we tried to do it in the middle of the week at one time, and we were like, no, that doesn't work. We tried Saturdays, but then we thought about it and said, listen, we're missing a whole extra day of coverage. Why don't we just do it Sunday nights? And we figured a school night would go quicker.
We did. Yeah, we tried Thursdays for a little while. Then we actually tried Saturdays. And then we're like, we're missing. There's too much good stuff on Saturday. It breaks up the whole middle of our weekend, because we're obligated at that point. Then we tried to go back to Fridays, thinking, okay, let's go into the weekend. And it's like, we're getting off of work, and it's like it's the last thing that we really wanted to think about. Then we went back to Saturdays for a little bit, and then actually we just made the decision that going to Sundays is putting us on a little bit more of a clock to try and actually get off at a decent hour, because you're right, it is a school night, and we've got the full extra day of coverage. The only things that we've really been missing are games that are ongoing or during the middle of the NFL season. With this being our first year now going on Sunday nights, is we've been on the air for we saw just under a month ago me have an epic meltdown live on the air when the Bills lost.
Which, with all due respect, hilarious. I mean, go from there. I mean, Jim, every year we've done the Wise Guys, I've taken a beating at the end of November, beginning of December. Pray to God that changes.
Yeah, we've gone 3 years. We've gone 3+ years, and Mike has never not, it even actually came up in a Wisey Chronicle as somebody on this show has never experienced not having to take their lumps.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel good. I can tell you that. That gold trophy feels real fucking good, but that doesn't feel good. Did you see the picture of my shirts finally in?
Yeah.
I wore it Saturday, and Caitlin kind of looked at me funny. So fuck up. So, James, we are 26 minutes in. Usually by now we are a quarter of the way through the first part of the hat trick. But I think it's time to give away the first award of the night. What about you?
The nominees for Best Moment of 2024.
We start at the top with the woman who has set the world on fire, and that is Caitlin Clark, breaking the all-time NCAA basketball scoring record with a 3 from the Iowa logo off the right side of the court. And by the way, you knew she was hit it the minute it left her hand. Jim, you can do the next one because it's stuff.
Sid and Gino have a milestone night. On the same night, at the very start of the NHL season, Sidney Crosby scores his 1,600th point and then also helps assist Evgeny Malkin getting his 500th goal in the same game.
The next one is kind of one that we are going to tip our hats to not only the person who had this happen, but also to the guy who made it happen. And that is Mike Evans gets paid as the Bucks complete a pass on the final play of the regular season to get Mike Evans a $3 million incentive bonus for getting to 1,000 yards for, what was it, the 11th straight year?
Correct.
And the guy who made that happen is none other than Baker Mayfield.
In a game that was well already decided, the Buccaneers were mathematically at that point already NFC South champions, headed to the playoffs, but a very, very cool moment. Freddie Freeman walks off Game 1 of the World Series and becomes the first player ever to hit a walk-off grand slam in the Fall Classic.
And finally, a rough one, but a moment that belongs up there nonetheless. On their home opener, the Columbus Blue Jackets pay tribute to Johnny Hockey. That is, the hockey world mourns the loss of Johnny Gaudreau and his brother just a couple weeks before the start of the NHL season. Since then, I know you've probably seen it. They sang "Happy Birthday" to his son the other night.
That was very, very cool.
That was very cool. And James, the winner of the Wisey for the 2024 best moment is
a tie.
A tie. First, we go to Freddie Freeman, a walk-off grand slam to end Game 1 of the World Series. He wins the World Series MVP. I didn't realize he was the 12th. I thought he was the 10th or 11th. I didn't realize he was the 12th to win the MVP and the World Series MVP in his career. He's one of only a couple that have done it same year, right?
Correct.
And Jim, what's the other moment?
The Columbus Blue Jackets pay tribute on opening night at Nationwide Arena to Johnny Hockey. The Gaudreau brothers were unfortunately killed in an accident on August 29th, just a few weeks before training camp. As you can see in the picture, what the Jackets decided to do with the collaboration of the Florida Panthers is they left Gaudreau's left wing position open. The Jackets then win the opening faceoff. The center passes to the right wing for the Florida Panthers, who then takes the puck and puts it right at Gaudreau's position, and they allow 13 seconds to run off the clock, which was Johnny Gaudreau's jersey number.
Tributes pouring in from both Calgary, where he started his career, and obviously Columbus, where he was playing before he was killed at the end of August. Jim, my thoughts on the two best moments. I don't think you and I could have picked two better ones.
And the last thing on Columbus is that, especially after losing your leading scorer and your team MVP, the Jackets right now sit tied. There's a three-way tie for 7th, 8th, and 9th in the Eastern Conference, the Jackets are currently mathematically on the outside because they don't have as many regulation wins as the two teams that are sitting in the two wild card spots. But what a year for the Jackets. But no better way to honor Johnny than this. I actually was like looking for the video to be able to try and still this image, and still 3 to 4 months later got choked up with it. And how could you not smile with Freddie Freeman?
Oh, I mean, well, first of all, he did to the Yankees, so there's that. But at the same time, um, when you think about also when you heard what he was playing through to annihilate the competition the way he did in the World Series, um, I, dude, and the fact that he hit it in the same spot Gibby did.
Yeah.
The last time the Dodgers walked off a World Series game at home, unreal. So two really good moments this year. I mean, all five could have won. And when you think about Caitlin Clark and you think about what she has done, and you think about, the thing with Mike Evans. I mean, come on, he tied Jerry Rice with that. And I think Sid and Gino only didn't get up toward the top more because they're from fucking Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but this time next year, well, yeah, I think this time next year, I think our leader in the clubhouse is going to be Alex Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record because he had a hat trick today and he's only 13 back.
That's insane. I read that too. I was going to ask you about that off camera.
40 years old and nets a hattie.
That's insanity. Good for Ovi. Absolutely great for Ovi.
And to think when like him, Gino, and Sid all coming into the league at the same time, essentially,
Jesus,
within a couple of years of each other, and Marc-Andre Fleury, this is his final year, and Sid and Gino are still going, and AO really shows at 40 years old shows absolutely no signs of slowing down.
Is he going to go for 900?
At the rate he's going, he could hit 900 this year.
Yeah, right. How many games they got left?
Why did that send me back home? As the Cavaliers are now up 9. Ovechkin at AO is at he's 39. My bad. Please stand by, as ESPN's website does not want to work all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, there was a fight in the Cavs game.
That's why he's only 21 away at this particular point. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
The Capitals are at 57 games, so they've got 23 to go. So if he actually averages a goal a game, he's at 900.
Jesus.
23 goals in 21 goals in 23 games, and 13 away from breaking Gretzky.
That's crazy. Do you want to do another breaking news real quick? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
The Washington Mystics have gone into full rebuild mode as they sent Ariel Atkins to the Minnesota Sky for the number 3 overall pick in the 2025 WNBA draft. Of course, Atkins won a championship with the Mystics when they won their title. Hilarious that they won it before the Wizards. But another rebuild because we were talking about my blog before. Of course, I did an entry about the rebirth of the Cleveland Rockers. But yet that's the other thing, Jim. I wanted to say, I am so. I don't want to say impressed with us, but I am so happy that we're not the usual misogynistic pricks on the internet. We did a lot of WNBA this year, and we did a lot of women's college basketball.
That's the Caitlin effect. But the only thing that I actually, the Ariel Atkins trade, Chicago is now pretty well loaded. I just feel terrible now that she's going to be paired with The woman who's got her own value meal at McDonald's that nobody is eating because they can't find their mouth.
I'm sorry. I thought it was a Minnesota Sky. It's a Minnesota Lynx. It's a Chicago Sky. My fault. But dude, don't do that. That's not nice. Because the funnier one is her branded basketball that people keep trying to throw into a basket at Walmart and keeps falling.
As it stands, and I mean, we're a couple of weeks, we're a couple of months away, I should say, from uh, the opening of the WNBA season, and they're already the mock drafts are out right now. There was one that was updated about 2 weeks ago where Dallas is expected to get Paige Beckers at number one. Olivia Miles, the star from Notre Dame, who unfortunately lost as number one today, uh, it would go to Seattle. Chicago was going to end up, according to this, having Sonia Critton um, at three, but that's not going to happen anymore.
No, but you might see Sonia Critton go to Washington to start to help
Right.
kickstart that rebuild. I'm interested to see what Vegas does with the picks they got in the Kelsey Plum trade. I'm interested to see what LA does because I don't think they gave up their first round pick um, to add to Caitlin. Jesus. What's your girl's name on that team? LA.
Why am I drawing a blank? Because I'm still
Cameron
looking over this mock draft. Cameron Brink.
What they're going to add to Cameron and Kelsey Plum. I mean, listen, it's the WNBA's getting.
Could we possibly see one of these mega stars possibly moved to the Golden State Valkyries as well? I don't want to say in a cost-cutting move or anything, but can you imagine what would happen if one of these stars ended up there?
Does Ariel Atkins play forward? Or is she a guard?
Guard.
Okay. I was going to say
5'10".
if Chicago wanted to, you move Angel and you give them, because as much as we joke about Angel Reese and her inability to hit a bunny, she's a name, and Golden State could use that. Would be hilarious, unfortunately, for if it was Cameron Brink because of who her godparents are.
Right.
That if she went to Golden State, of course, she grew up with the Currys, so.
But big strides in the WNBA. We've got all of these mega moves. We've got Golden State coming in next year. We've got, I should say, this year. We've got Toronto coming in next year, and then the potential announcement coming any day now of the Cleveland Rockers being brought back in time for the 2028 season.
I hope so. I hope they do this right this time. I really do.
You and I talked about it on the phone. We, bring back the name, update the colors and the logo. You definitely don't want to bring back that 2003 logo.
Yeah, I think they should do something with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the actual jersey, like the silhouette of it, in the wine and gold, personally. Or if you want to go real old school, do it in the blue and orange.
Yeah, because they don't actually do all kinds of weird.
They don't do the City Connect. They don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah,
because even the old Rockers, their main color was black, and that was they wore those jerseys most of the time.
But they hadn't done the full rebrand because LeBron hadn't gotten here yet when that franchise was here, so they were still in the blue and white, the black and blue.
Yeah. So and then it was the guitar, if I remember it correctly, was in
correct
that logo.
Well, it was the guitar was an R.
That's right, for Rockers. I would do the silhouette of the Rock Hall, and in the same font that they do Cavaliers, do Rockers across the front of the jersey. And yeah, that's just me. Of course, we could always talk to Pants and see if he could do a mock-up for us. if he has time from the stand-up career and the bar owning.
Because that's what I call alcohol.
The commercials are great. The commercials are amazing. So, Jim, let's give out some more hardware, shall we?
The nominees for Best Milestone: the Yukon Huskies repeat for as NCAA men's basketball champions for the becoming the first school to do so since 2007.
That was your Florida Gators, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
The University of South Carolina Lady Gamecocks go 38-0 for their second NCAA title in 3 years. Dawn Staley, their head coach, has put herself in the upper echelon of college coaches, never mind women's college coaches, but college coaches in general.
Shohei Ohtani becomes the first player in baseball history with 50 home runs and 50 steals in the same season.
And although it ended short of it, the Kansas City Chiefs became the first NFL team to have an actual run at a three-peat. And they lost in the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago, but a 15-2 regular season. And headlines and storylines and really good football all around.
And the Boston Celtics stand alone as they run roughshod through the NBA playoffs en route to their 18th title, breaking the long-standing tie with their rival, the Los Angeles Lakers.
And the winner of Best Milestone goes to Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what more can you say about Shohei Ohtani?
Real quick. Try that again.
And the winner of Best Milestone goes to Shohei Ohtani. 6 men.
I totally forgot I had that.
6 players have done 40-40 previously. Had 3 weeks left in the regular season and went on a tear. The Dodgers would be the number 1 overall seed in the National League playoffs. They would beat the San Diego Padres and then go on to beat my New York Mets in a 6-game NLCS that wasn't that close. No close games were played in that series. They were all blowouts, whether it was the Mets blowing the Dodgers out or the Dodgers beating the tar out of the Mets. He wins in his first set of playoffs. He goes to win the World Series and was the unanimous 2024 National League Most Valuable Player. He will not do that again because he's pitching this year. So,
Cy Young MVP.
Paul Skeens is going to win the Cy Young. Let's not even play.
Paul Skeens. Unofficial award for the evening: athlete most winning at life. Paul Skeens or Josh Allen?
That's it. Josh Allen. I find Haley Steinfeld much more attractive than Livy Dunn. Of course, I have an issue with blondes.
Yeah, I find Livy Dunn a little bit more stunning than Josh's fiance now. But Haley Steinfeld right up there with the bomb that she dropped that you sent me the other day.
That was awesome.
For those of you that didn't see, they started quizzing Haley as to her football knowledge, knowing now that she is engaged to the NFL's MVP, Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills, and said, teams in the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills and their 3 kids. And even if the Bills come back to earth, there's the Patriots will still be crap. The Jets will be crap, and the Dolphins are going to take a huge step backwards because obviously they don't have enough, healthy players to field a team right now.
I don't know if their quarterback even knows where the fuck he is. I will say this though: Haley Steinfeld is talented enough to be a Barton Bella and the heir apparent to Hawkeye in the MCU. I'm sorry, Livy Dunn does not win that argument. The fact that I was balking on Cameron Brink, but I remembered Barton Bella. There's something wrong with me.
Yeah, it's not gonna lie, it's like I still have to do a double take and realize that, when she comes on, like, uh Livy Dunn, I mean, um that she's what, Lululemon or something.
Something like that. Who cares?
But anyway, getting back to Shohei, um, I almost said Blotani, but it's like, no, we're not talking about Eric Sim, um, who
You think
who had a great one that actually he was trying to put up numbers in live ABs, so it sounded like he would get drafted by the Mariners and then got traded to Pittsburgh midway through his ABs.
Do you think Otani put money on the line of him getting a 50-50 or not and put it through his buddy's name?
Bruh.
You're not right.
Dirtiest player in the game.
Wrong show.
But hey, I have a feeling we're going to talk about that tonight.
What, the Four Horsemen?
Yes, the Four Horsemen.
Mike, would you like to go immediately into the next one?
Yes, what do you say we do that?
This will be all you.
Oh, this is my
shit.
board.
That's the wrong one.
I saw Born on Third Base. You can kiss my ass.
Yes. Where did it go?
Did you lose
There
it?
we go.
Okay. So
This
this is going to be all me.
this went completely out of order for the slideshow that I put up.
So this is the best nickname, and I had some help with this one over the years. We're going to start at the top with the savior of the Mets offseason, Pete Alonso, of course, the polar bear. He's built like one, therefore he is one. Joe Burrow, who Jim has named Joe Shiesty, which I believe that to be an amazing one. We have, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Spider, Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sidney Crosby, Sid the Kid, even though he's 37. Carson Beck, the former Georgia quarterback, now Miami Hurricane quarterback. He's just Sid, and that's because he looks like Sid from Ice Age.
I also realized Carson Beck, you know who he's dating?
Who cares?
One of the Cavender twins from Miami. And didn't they actually just get robbed or something?
Yeah, the Lambo and the Mustang were stolen. I have a Toyota Camry and I work 50 hours a week. He looks like Sid from Ice Age, and for those who don't know that because you haven't seen Ice Age, think Marty Feldman from The Young Frankenstein. And finally, of course, LeBron James, King James, the Cleveland-born, the Akron-born, in my opinion, top 2 player of all time. But for the first time in Wisey history, the winner is not on the nominee page because the winner was a write-in candidate. And James, if you'd hit the music, the winner of the best nickname goes to the W2s, and one of the hosts, our good friend Kaylin, and her nickname of Glitterbug. We're gonna get shit for this.
You are going to get pounded when she sees this tomorrow, and I'm going to get something in the mail that's going to be labeled as explosive.
So we took this opportunity to not only give Miss Kaylin her award, because quite honestly, the first time Jim called her Glitterbug, I almost snorted my coffee through my nose. But it is official. Tomorrow night, my wife will get into the podcast game as Mrs. Rican and Glitterbug. Oh my God, that's what we need to call it when we pump the show. Mrs. Rican and Glitterbug. The W2's
We'll give you
podcast.
context for the nickname here in a few minutes. But
The
Michael,
W2
continue.
The W2's podcast will record their first episode tomorrow night. Me being the equipment manager and roadie, James being the technical producer and editor. But the girls are going to have some fun, and they're going to put some of their ideas out there on the internet. We're going to see where it goes. But I am so excited for them to get into this. How excited? Yeah, they're using my old Chromebook. So yeah, there you go.
And Caitlin's got some really nice equipment.
She's
kind of jealous, and keep Caitlin's name fresh in your mind, because she will be joining us probably multiple times in 2025. We when Mike started telling me about her, instantly my ears kind of perked up, and then we eventually met, and it was the worst day of Mike's life.
It really was. Because I'm getting it from both sides, because now she busts my chops with Jim, and I'm most likely going to be a topic on their show. So, hey.
That's what she said.
Bro. Not that. This is a first, ladies and gentlemen. We have an OTR during the Wiseys.
But the W2s, the conference call that I got put on with them, the video call for the trying to design that logo, there were a few other ideas that I kind of liked a little bit better, but credit to Mrs. Rican for standing her ground. She did not want to give up the ribbon on that fucking wine glass.
You've known her how long? Stand her ground. She just tells you what she wants, and if you don't do it, she won't tell you again.
Basically, yes. But this is going to be, this is kind of a weekly thing with them, and now just eventually taking it into podcast form for both of them. It will not be blogged like how Michael and myself have gone the route of. But we look forward to everything that they're going to have coming. We're going to be plugging the hell out of them before too long. And again, Caitlin will be joining us hopefully before too long. Let her get her feet wet with this show with the W2s, and then we're certainly going to bring her on. But Michael, would you like to start the analysis of where the nickname came from and why she is an award winner?
Well, let's start here. I don't know exactly where the nickname came from. I do know that Jim and I have fun with her because when she wears her Georgia stuff, we tell her she's a Packer fan. Where did you get Glitterbug from?
I was looking for some way for the way that you guys glittered her desk for her birthday.
Okay, here's what happened. So Kaylin has a couple of friends online, wise asses like the rest of us. We all fit in. And they put up happy birthday on her Facebook wall. Well, she was complaining about it, and of course, she leaves for the day, and me being the manager of the office, I'm there a few minutes late. My wife looks at me and she goes, I need a minute. Balloons get blown up. All the fake Christmas presents from the back get blown out and put on her desk. Not once, but twice. And the second time, my wife found the birthday glitter they had bombed me with, my first birthday in Georgia, and just went poof all over her desk.
So eventually it turns into... What's that?
I sent her the picture.
Of that?
Yeah.
Kaylin, if you're watching, you don't have my address yet.
And I won't give it to you.
But
so he started
that
calling
night, her and I ended up talking for 5.5 hours. It was 12:30 in the morning. We both had to be up for work the next day, and glitter came up multiple times during that conversation, and we were looking for nicknames. So Michael has become MG, as in Mike Gale.
Now, let me say this. My given name, for those who know me, is Miguel, and I get stuff at the office where they don't understand it. That's one name, so they name Mike Gale. Like it's my first and last name. That's where she got it from.
No, I just realized who you are.
Who am I?
You have to stop the Q-tip when there's resistance.
You are Chenandler Bong.
Yes. Wait, that's Mrs. Chenandler Bong. Oh my God, it really is an OTR today. So yeah, that's Mike Gale. We got either Little Jimmy or Jimothy. We have Glitterbug and Mrs. Rican. I mean,
and that's the second time our truth has been referenced on this show tonight, because I will not be talking about a box of spiders.
Oh my God. So Jim, why don't we get to your award before we? Are we doing halftime tonight, or are we just going to go through? Because we're an hour in.
We'll do a halftime tonight, but let's go back to a little bit of a serious one here.
Okay.
The nominees for Coach of the Year from the Wiseys are
Andy Reid, who becomes the first coach to guide a team to 3 consecutive Super Bowls. If I'm not mistaken, he was only one of 2 coaches to go to 4 straight, at the time, 4 straight championship games.
The other being Marv Levy.
Yep, and he has been to 7 consecutive championship games in the AFC with this run with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Paul Maurice leads the Florida Panthers to their first Stanley Cup title, and as of tonight is 11 wins out of third place all-time in NHL coaching wins at 903, trailing Barry Trotz.
Our third nominee is Dawn Staley, the head coach and 3-time and defending Naismith Coach of the Year. Last year, her South Carolina Lady Gamecocks finished 38-0 and ended that perfect run with a national championship, beating Iowa in the championship game.
Stephen Vogt, a rookie manager taking over for legendary Terry Francona in Cleveland, guides a Guardians team who was projected to finish third at best by every major publication to a 92-65 record, winning the American League Central Division, advancing to the American League Championship Series, and winning the American League Manager of the Year award.
And last, Dan Hurley, the Naismith Coach of the Year on the men's side. He led UConn to back-to-back titles, being the first time since 06 and 07 the Florida Gators of
Billy Donovan.
I almost said Steve Lavin.
That was UCLA in 1994.
The Ed O'Bannon year.
Yes. I'm trying to remember if that was Steve Lavin or if that was Jim Herrick.
That was Steve Lavin.
I'm a diehard UCLA fan. I should know this.
They beat the Buckeyes today.
Yeah, they did. It was one of the most feel-good stories of the entire summer. Paul Maurice finally gets his hands on Lord Stanley.
We had a lot of good choices in this category, and this is one of the ones Jim and I actually debated. We each threw. Paul Maurice it's an amazing story, but you had Stephen Vogt do something no one thought he was going to be able to do the first year with the Gardos. You had 2 NCAA championship coaches who won Coach of the Year. And of course, Andy Reid is, in my opinion, top 3 all-time in the NFL. But this story was far better. Jim, read off his accomplishments there.
After a long tenure in, a cup of coffee, essentially, it was a few years in Carolina. He basically guides the Winnipeg Jets back to respectability, and then steps away when he feels that he can't be the guy to kind of get them to the next level. Takes about 6 months off, and then immediately gets a phone call from the Florida Panthers. takes the Panthers in his first season to the Stanley Cup final, to where they run into a massive injury bug and then lose in 5 games to the Vegas Golden Knights. The following year, he becomes the longest tenured coach in NHL history never to win a Stanley Cup, a 26-year vet as a head coach in the NHL, only the third ever to coach 1,800 games from in December of 2023. He'll actually hit 1,900 uh, sometime, early next season. He signed a 3-year extension just days before the season started this year. And we got to admit, from what we watched of it, and I think we even watched it during halftime, it was one of the coolest handings of a cup we've ever seen.
It really was.
We talked about Ray Bork is easily far and away the most emotional and the one that you relished. Captain's taking it as one thing, but watching one of his third line guys skate over to him and interrupt his on ice interview, still standing on the bench, was just.
It was great. Exactly, chef's kiss.
The fact that he takes the cup, he holds it down at waist level, he leans over, he talks to it, and it was eventually revealed that he said that, "I've been waiting for you for a long time. You are very hard to come by." Swore at the cup, and then threw it over his head with several more profanities.
My kind of coach.
For such a classy, wonderful gentleman, you can't help. If you didn't smile when Paul Maurice lifted that cup, you don't have a soul.
No, you really don't. I mean, that was the better story out of all of them. I mean, it's just, that's one you can hang your hat on. Paul Maurice winning that award. I asked about halftime, Jim, because we're an hour in already.
Let's try and squeeze one more in here.
All right, what do you got?
And then we'll go to halftime, because we'll actually we don't have as many awards in the second half, but we've got a couple of additional segments, a couple of additional things that we can talk a little bit longer about.
Gotcha.
The nominees for Best Story.
Can I have the first one?
Absolutely.
The 2024 New York Mets rebound and surpassed. They were 13 games under 500 on June the 1st, and they got all the way to Game 6 of the NLCS.
The Indiana Hoosiers were picked to finish 17th in the 2017 Big Ten, and it was just 18, but start off 11-0 and make it all the way to the college football playoffs, finishing the regular season as 11-1 and a 10 seed, ultimately losing in the first round
to in-state rival Notre Dame. Caitlin Clark sets the college basketball scoring record, men or women. Iowa advances to the title game for the second year in a row, the first overall pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, and the WNBA Rookie of the Year.
Saquon Barkley is cast off by the New York Giants, signs with the division rival Philadelphia Eagles, ran for over 2,000 yards from scrimmage in the regular season, and then culminates his revenge tour on the Giants by winning Super Bowl 59 over the Kansas City Chiefs 2 weeks ago.
And finally, the Florida Panthers hoist Lord Stanley, the first title in franchise history after falling in the finals the previous season. Lost 3-0 series lead against the Oilers, and they won Game 7 2-1. Were they at home for that game?
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. And the winner of the best story. As much as we wanted to give it to Caitlin, this one, maybe it's some recency bias, but this one really hit you, especially with the behind-the-scenes disrespect by the Giants front office. A 3-year, $37.5 million contract with the Eagles. I think 27 of it is guaranteed.
Correct.
574 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns in the postseason. And he finished 100 yards short of Eric Dickerson's single season record, and he sat out week 18. What a phenomenal season from Saquon Barkley and the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
There were, if it wasn't going to be the Buffalo Bills winning the Super Bowl, everyone else was thinking once the playoffs got down to the Final Four, everyone in America was pulling for the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles to make the Super Bowl. If it wasn't going to be Josh Allen, every single person coming out of championship weekend said Saquon needs to get himself a ring. After that season, Saquon needs to get a ring.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. We haven't heard the end of Kansas City, obviously, depending on what happens in the coming weeks with Travis Kelce's decision on if he's going to continue playing or not. But this was the story I think we wanted told, especially after the footage from Hard Knocks was released. And you saw just the disrespect, especially since Daniel Jones is absolute trash. Yeah, I think I was pulling for him more than I was pulling for the Eagles themselves to win that game.
A lot of people were with that. And we think of a lot of great plays from the NFL this season. It was one of the more memorable seasons that we can ever remember. We remember the Commanders' Hail Mary over the Bears. We remember Josh Allen's run against Kansas City in the snow on Sunday night to pay dirt. But Michael, I don't think any of us will ever forget Saquon jumping over somebody backwards.
Never mind that. When professional athletes do something and we are awed by it, we're expected to be awed by it. We're normal people. We don't have that athleticism. We don't have those things. Look at the video angle from the Eagles bench and the look on Cooper DeJean's face. You know, I almost did the best white boy category again.
It was
especially after last week.
Just watching normal NFL streamers, like a compilation of them watching the highlights from when he did that, and every single one of them losing their shit, knowing that he did it, but not actually having seen it yet.
I mean, it was just an insane move. And not only that, this is one of the really good guys in the league. And I know I said this to you before. I've said it on my show. I said it on here. I did not see this with what he did his final year at Penn State and with every single team that he played that had more than one NFL caliber player on the defensive side. He did not play well. I didn't think he was worth the second pick. I'm glad I was wrong.
It was very advantageous for him to sign with the Eagles, a team that had a lot of question marks coming out of training camp, that they were going to be good, but they lost a few steps. Jalen Hurts was coming off of an injury. Could they actually add arguably one of the 3 best running backs in football and be able to take that next step? And not only did Saquon Barkley excel in that role, he flourished and made them. He basically, as an MVP, he arguably had one of the greatest offensive seasons. Now, call it what you will about a quarterback's award. Had Josh Allen not put up the numbers that he had with a very inferior crew, and let's say if Saquon would have put these types of numbers up with like a Minnesota or a Chicago or somebody who wasn't already a playoff caliber contender and serious conference championship contender, but the fact that he goes there and he still puts up this level of ability and these level of numbers, that he sits out, and there's a lot of people that actually would have, said, and Eric Dickerson is one of my all-time favorite players in league history. he's probably my favorite offensive player because I'm a defense first kind of guy. But for Dickerson to actually say that if Barkley would have broken his record by playing Week 18, it wouldn't have actually mattered as much because it's the one extra game on the schedule. There's a lot of clout to that. But to be able to put up 2,005 yards and still sit out, and then still put up a quarter of that in 3 games in the playoffs.
Well, let's
It's
also
nothing short of amazing.
Well, let me tell you why I disagree with Dickerson's take, and then let's get to halftime. He also carried the ball less. Dickerson was a workhorse, not that Saquon wasn't, but Saquon was utilizing the passing game more. Yeah, I would not have scoffed at that record had he attained it. Real quick, 118-109 Cleveland with 2:54 left. Ty Jerome's got 25 points again.
At 118-112 with 228. It just updated for me.
Yeah, I turned on YouTube TV. It's taking a second.
Other real quick, other very, very fast pieces of news. Shedeur Sanders will not throw at the NFL Combine this week. The Sixers are exploring options for Joel Embiid and his knee. And Venus Williams will not play at Indian Wells despite receiving a sponsor's invite this week.
That doesn't shock me that she's not going to play. She has taken back her. I mean, technically she's retired, but even a little bit she has played. She's definitely taken things back. As far as Shedeur goes, I could have told you he wasn't going to throw at the combine. Same way his old man got out of the limo, ran the 40 and left.
And we're going to have a lot more discussion about that as things amp up. We could see a lot of news coming out of the combine this week involving the Cleveland Browns. There's been a lot of talk with the Detroit Lions. There's been talk with the Minnesota Vikings. So it's, even though the Myles Garrett effect and the trade is what's taking a lot of precedence here, there's still a lot of teams making a lot of noise because we're only Michael, 2 weeks from tonight is daylight savings, and then the Sunday after that, the NFL new calendar year opens.
And then the week after that, we have the Sunday selection show. And, oh, by the way, in there, March 27th, we have opening day. So, yeah.
We're loaded for March. But congratulations to Saquon for winning the Wisey Award for Best Story. But, Michael, you are correct. We are now coming up on an hour 15. So what do you say we actually top off our drinks? I can go take my medication. And we'll actually see you guys in a few minutes, and we'll wrap up the Wiseys tonight.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
As the halftime video did not cycle the entire time we were out.
I heard the music.
Yeah, but the video never looked.
That's all right. 127, 122 Cleveland with, I think it's at 15.6 left.
And UConn got beat again. Wow.
The men or the women?
Men.
Gotcha. Yeah, 127, 122 Cleveland with 15.6 seconds left. Obviously, we're going to be paying close attention to this, even, Big Rican Cav shirt, which, by the way, we have a What's in the Box episode and a What's in the Bag episode.
That's right. We did. Although What's in the Bag didn't actually have as much ring as being able to pull off the What's in the Box.
Very true. I mean, you said What's in the Box, and all I hear in my head is put the gun down, David.
I've never actually seen the movie all the way through, but it's like I keep thinking of, like, one of these days I'm going to have to show you the behind the scenes from the first few seasons of Arrow between Stephen Amell and David Ramsey, where they're just being knuckleheads, and that was apparently the gag on set for the first 2 years.
I've seen some of that. By the way, you know what? Speaking of Stephen Amell, do you know what started tonight? Suits LA.
That's right. I never actually really got into the first one, but I'm actually still trying to get through Heels, and I'm like, I love the show. It's just being able to like sit down and like get through the whole thing, because now that NCIS and everything and my FBIs are back, it's that's taking up Monday and Tuesday, and then usually it's like Warframe through most of the rest of the week with live streams and the new updates coming out.
Yeah, no, agreed. And with us, we got into that Night Agent I was telling you on Netflix. But you need to be mentally engaged. That's how good it is. And the last few nights, I have not been. 129, 123 Cleveland with 9 seconds left. The standings are up. The Cavs hold what will be back to a 6-game lead for the top spot in the Eastern Conference. Jim, unless they go on a prolonged losing streak, I don't see them losing the top spot.
Their schedule, they've got 27, 28 games left here after tonight. When you look at their schedule kind of down the stretch here, after tonight, they're in Orlando on Tuesday, who's still banged up. The big rematch against Boston is next Friday. And then they get a little bit of a breather here where they can certainly kind of, get some guys in the rotation, some minutes, get some guys some nights off, where they get Portland, Chicago, Miami, Charlotte over the course of the next 4 games. Now, Chicago's playing a little bit better, Miami a little bit better. But, I mean, those are easily 4 winnable games. Realistically, you look down the stretch, they've got a 5-game West Coast road trip as it's just gone final down at the Nomo Romo Fijo, where you've got the Clippers, Sacramento, Phoenix, Utah, and Portland. You've got 5 games within 8 days.
That's the 5 games in 8 days is what's going to be tough. Because you're getting down to the stretch. But the one thing I will say, we've said this before about Kenny Atkinson, much different from his predecessor, JP Pingeringer.
That's a bit that I actually am so glad that we've actually, kept running with here for the last few weeks.
What was the other one I was going to call him? Oh, RJ Fingerbanger? Yeah.
That's the one that broke me 2 weeks ago.
That was Chicken Fucker that broke you 2 weeks ago. and John going, but yeah, they and it has gone final. Cleveland wins again. 47-10.
I mean, they weren't getting this kind of production last year out of RC Letterkenny.
Rusty cunt bucket.
Yeah, we put some things from Letterkenny on the board.
I need to go back and finish Letterkenny.
The two we need to put up there are hard no. When we don't like something, just go hard no. And how are you now? So yeah, could you imagine if we have to cover playoffs and they're winning? First of all, the arena is going to be an insane asylum. I can't wait. And now, and with the YouTube TV, I'll be able to watch them win these. So of course, I'll listen.
Yeah,
Okay,
very, very nice.
I'll be able to. I'll listen to the radio broadcast because God knows I can't do Mike Breen for that many games again.
That's it's that's the worst part about watching. I mean, at least ESPN's coverage is having to listen to him.
Yeah. Although there are some booths out there that are pretty damn good. For instance, Gary, Keith, and Ron were back in the booth yesterday, and it has started already. Yeah. Gary made a comment about brides walking down the aisle, and Keith goes, "I thought brides made you loco." And there was dead silence because Gary and Ron both hit their cough button and are just dying laughing. Because anybody who knows, Hernandez has been married twice and divorced twice. Longest relationship he had was his cat that just recently did. Rest in peace, Haji. That had just recently passed away. And yeah, hysterics. I love those three men.
The only redeeming part about baseball being back is just the announcers and everything getting into prime form, because I have no qualms about saying this. This could be, with all the money and everything that's been thrown around, this could be one of the most unwatchable baseball seasons of our lifetime.
Well, let me say this. You're always going to have your team, and what your team is doing are going to be watchable things. I honestly believe that you, with your multi fandoms, between the Gardos, the Cardinals, I think you're going to have watchable seasons in both places. One, watching the manager die on a hill and having three legends come back to run the team next year. And Jim, I wouldn't count the Gardos out. I think that Houston has taken a dramatic step back. I think the Seattle Mariners have taken a step back because they have no idea what the hell they're doing. You could see three teams from the Central in the postseason. I think Kansas City is by far and away the best team in that division.
Yeah, Kansas City, Minnesota, and Detroit.
No, I think the Gardos get in.
I think the Gardos right now, I've got them projected between, I mean, we'll talk about this when we do our MLB breakdown, but I mean, I will die on the hill that I had them between 75 and 85 and missing out on the wild card entirely.
I mean, I can see 85 to 87 with them and being in it till the very last day. We'll see, because remember, Minnesota's been their own worst enemy.
But everybody in that division gets better, and then the Guardians lose two all-stars, and
well, we don't know.
Jose Ramirez is not getting any younger.
No, but we don't know what Bazana's going to be, and we don't know what any of these guys are going to be the next year. So I think it's going to be interesting. I honestly do. I think it's going to be an interesting season for both of our teams. Well, all three, because again, you have your allegiance to the Cardinals as well. The Mets, people are picking to finish third in that division. I disagree, but we will get into that when we do our MLB preview in the coming weeks. But we have more hardware to give out, James.
We do.
One year we really ought to make a trophy.
The nominees for Best Team.
It's your turn to start.
The Los Angeles Dodgers finished 98 and 64, win the National League West, and win their second World Series title this decade in a wonderful series over the Yankees, because it was a blowout.
Yes, it was. The Boston Celtics, a 64-18 regular season in 23-24, and they win their record 18th NBA championship. And it was a cakewalk through the Eastern Conference playoffs.
The Kansas City Chiefs go 15-2, where one of those losses was resting all starters in the final week of the regular season, and they become the first ever team to advance to a Super Bowl seeking a three-peat. Now, granted, it did not end that way, but they only become the second team ever, as we mentioned earlier, to advance to at least a third consecutive Super Bowl.
The Florida Panthers, a 52-24-6 regular season, and they win their first Stanley Cup in a 7-game thriller series over the Edmonton Oilers.
And the South Carolina Gamecocks complete a 38-0 season to win their third title since 2017, and it is only the 10th perfect season in women's college basketball history.
And the Wisey for best team goes to the Lady Gamecocks of South Carolina, really because they were the only undefeated team in major sports last year. The 10th perfect season in women's college basketball history. Are 8 of them UConn by chance?
Yes, 8 of them are UConn.
They finished the SEC regular season 3 games clear of LSU. Their smallest margin of victory, of course, was 4 over Indiana in the Sweet 16. Camila Cardoso named the tournament most outstanding player, and she was drafted 3rd overall by Chicago in the 2024 NBA draft to go with Angel Reese. Just a phenomenal season by Dawn Staley and her team. Is that Staley's 3rd title?
Correct.
So what's it? Her, Gino, and Pat? And Tara Vanderveer?
That have at least 3 titles, correct, that I'm aware of.
Yeah, same here. Of course, we got to go way back because they've been doing the championships for years, but modern women's college basketball, those are the 3 names, or 4 names, excuse me, you would think of as the 4 best coaches. Jim, what impressed you the most about their run last year?
Just really how dominant they were. We've seen we grew up remembering how dominant Tennessee was, in the 90s, and then, in the early 2000s, UConn taking the reins, and Gino Auriemma basically becoming the next Pat Summitt, coaching alongside Pat Summitt at the time, and just how great their programs were. But just the fact of they weren't just good, they weren't just great. They had already won before the game even tipped off in a lot of teams' minds. Now that win by 4 over, and that was the smallest margin of victory in the NCAA tournament. I should have rephrased that. In the over Indiana in the Sweet 16. That was one where they had just stopped teams in the first 2 rounds, because remember, the first 2 rounds of the NCAA women's tournament are at a host team's floor, namely the number 1 seed. The number 1, 2, 3, and 4 always host that weekend's opening games. So this was their first neutral site game, really, since very early in the season, when you're talking like, Maui Invitational or Coaches versus Cancer or anything. So it's, but just Caitlin in Iowa gave them a little bit of a game, and then South Carolina realized, hey, we're 37-0. We need to put our foot on their throat in that championship.
And basically, it's what they did. But yeah, this was not a very much debated category with us, because they were the only perfect season. Honorable mentions go to UConn winning their 2nd consecutive championship. Really, I'm going to say an honorable mention to the Cleveland Guardians for the year they had last year, as amazing as they were, to win that division title, really going away, winning that division championship. And we're getting all the way, game 5 of the LCS against the Yankees. So hats off to everybody in that best team category.
And also honorable mention to the Edmonton Oilers, who were very, very good during the regular season and found a second gear that nobody expected them to have to make their run to the Stanley Cup Finals, and were left for dead. And quite honestly, had a very good chance of pulling off the greatest upset in history if they would have been able to finish off Game 7.
Yeah, that would have been on par with what Boston did to the Yankees. You ready for this? 21 years ago.
Have you watched the Netflix documentary yet that I told you about?
Not the Netflix one, no. I've watched 4 Days in October, the 30 for 30, which is awesome. Outside
This
of
one,
Bill
this
Simmons.
one is better because
Is
it
it?
talks to everyone, including they talk it more in depth with Theo. They talk more with Grady Little, who remember got fired very early in that year. The
Before
year
this,
before.
he got fired after he left Pedro in too long in Game 7 of the LCS in 03.
Right. They talk to everybody. They also do a very, very good several minute kind of retrospect and tribute to Tim Wakefield.
Oh, that has to be done. Talk about a redemption arc in your career. You give up the home run to lose an epic LCS in 1 year, and then you help a team come back against that same team, and you start and win Game 1 of the World Series.
Yeah.
Because they basically had nobody else who could pitch. But hey,
Mhm.
Wake went out and won. What's next on the agenda, friend?
As again, these all actually end up coming out of order. Let's kind of let's kind of take a step back and kind of tone down the mode a little bit. Every award show does them. We're no different. We lost some big names this past year.
We did.
And these are in no particular order by by being alphabetized, or who we figure is bigger than the other, or chronologically. It's just, grabbed them as quickly as I could.
I want to start on the bottom right with Carl Weathers. We first met him in 1977's Rocky as the Muhammad Ali like Apollo Creed. He then vaulted into our hearts as Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. But he'll always be, to a generation, Apollo Creed. And for an actor to impact the sports world that much, I think the next time that happens is when we lose Kevin Costner.
As Carl Weathers was a former professional athlete, spending several
Played for
years
the Raiders.
with the Los Angeles Raiders, or were they still Oakland?
Oakland.
But you are correct. The impact there, just some of the names that we looked up, and we've talked about just about everybody on here through the course of the year. We opened our show back-to-back weeks with Bill Walton and Jerry West. We gave almost an hour to the Pete Rose conversation. Willie came on with us and gave his memories of Willie Mays. We did Lou Carnesecca just a few weeks ago.
Yep, and of course, right around Christmas, we lose the man who made himself the greatest in Ricky Henderson, by far the best leadoff hitter in baseball history. We lose Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau, who we have up there in the top. Is it wrong that I find it fitting that it's Matthew Gaudreau and the Juice next to each other with the year Matthew was born?
It was kind of ironic that that I found Matthew in the Bridgeport Sound Tigers jersey, which is the AHL affiliate of the New York Islanders, considering Johnny Gaudreau was heavily rumored to be going to the Islanders in free agency a few years ago before signing with Columbus completely out of the blue because of the fact that the Devils did not have the money, nor did the Rangers to sign him, and he wanted to go back home to play.
Yeah. I love that you got Bill Walton in a Blazers jersey because it has the beard.
It's a lot of these images I pulled directly, with the exception of Matthew Gaudreau. A lot of these were pulled directly off of Wikipedia. That's why Ricky's still in his A's uniform as opposed to like young A's, as opposed to because there's no buttons on that jersey.
Nope.
That's why Dikembe Mutombo's in a Sixers jersey, whereas we remember him mostly with Atlanta and Denver.
Fernando. I mean, you want to talk about taking a sport by storm. Fernando Mania was, and quite frankly, is still alive and kicking. He was the preeminent Mexican figure in Major League Baseball. Not Mexican League figure, that'd be Jake Taylor. The preeminent Mexican figure. And then, of course, we lose the hit king and Pete Rose. But I think for you and I, the ones that hit us the hardest were the reporters. I mean, Chris Mortensen had been out of the public eye for a little bit, still dealing with his health issues, and we lost more earlier this year. Last year, Greg Gumbel was very close to the end of 2024 that he passed away. But when we talked, when we lost Jimmy, it was heartbreaking to talk about. Doing that whole episode, talking about the voice of the Browns. I think that right there angers me more about the Browns situation than anything, is that they could not get him a home playoff game to call, and they could not give him a product that was worth his talent to put his voice to for the majority of the time.
Yeah, but it was, him and Deacon together basically kind of railing on the product was the highlight on radio for most Sundays, with the fact that they've been back for close to 30 years and they've only been to the postseason 3 times. But you are right. The idea of Greg Gumbel was for the fact that you're a Jets fan and I'm a Browns fan, and their games are always on CBS. So we always got Greg Gumbel before the game. We always got Greg Gumbel at halftime and after the game. And then leading into that second game, when we would actually get one from CBS, because,
Yep.
not all markets are going to get 4 games a week. Some might actually get 3. Some might even only get 2. But Mortensen, when we weren't watching CBS, a lot of us would actually open up our day by watching Sunday NFL Countdown with Boomer and Tom Jackson, and Chris Mortensen was a very, very big part of our childhood growing up with that, and our maturity as well. And Mort was one of the greats.
He was. He absolutely was. And obviously,
there's no
there's no
why am I
Schefter.
drunk? I was just thinking, I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head. There's no Adam Schefter without a guy like a Chris Mortensen.
No, there's not. There's really not. And for Jerry West and Bill Walton back-to-back weeks, that was rough. That was rough because that was more our dad's time of watching the NBA. But yeah, 24 took a lot of people, and of course we get hit right in the throat to start 25.
We could find something to say about OJ Simpson, but we're kind of out there still looking for it. We're not going to rest until we find one. It may not be this week.
Hold on. Let's do this. We're going to do this properly for you because that one was absolutely fucking beautiful. That was absolutely gorgeous.
Favorite thing about OJ? All the coverage that came out afterwards and all the documentaries, or Norm Macdonald shitting on him for 3 straight years.
When Leslie Nielsen pushed his character down the ramp in the wheelchair and the Naked Gun.
You can't argue that he was one of the greatest NFL players in history. You cannot argue that. I'm
Look,
just so ecstatic that Josh Allen is having the resurgence of this franchise and gotten them to Super Bowl contention really since the first time since the early 90s with Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed and all of those guys, because it means, OJ is an afterthought.
yeah, and I find it very ironic that two guys back to back on that list who we have to think more about, we think less about their on-field contributions than we do about the off-field bullshit and
Right.
between him and Pete Rose. Um, Pete was out of the blue. No, I don't think anyone even knew Pete was sick. And then we saw that Pete had gone. And who were we on with Willie? Did Willie come on and we talked about who the best living player was? Yes, we did.
Yes.
Willie was on that show because he said Barry Bonds. You said, who did you say?
I got to go back and watch that.
Because I said Griffey. I said Junior was the best living player after we lost Pete. Oh, no. No, it was after Willie Mays passed away. You said Pete was the best living player. He said Barry Bonds, and I said Griffey. And then 8-9 months later, we lose Pete.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. So, to all those because there are some we missed too, to all those we lost in the sports world last year, these are the ones we really dove into on the show. So that's why they're up there in the in memoriam segment.
And unfortunately, we've already got quite a few that are going to be on this graphic next year. I mean, are we going to end up having to make a second page for this graphic next year?
It's looking that way. Let's do something fun, James.
The nominees, this is another quasi version of a Mike category, although we both came up with it. Michael, I'm going to let you take this one solo.
Oh, thank you. The nominees for the best dumpster fire in sports. At the top of that list, we have the Cleveland Browns. Controversial quarterback Deshaun Watson tears ACL in Week 7. Fans cheer. Star defensive end Myles Garrett requests a trade for a 3-14 season, and they're in the market for a kicker because Justin Tucker is no better than fucking Deshaun. Go ahead, James.
The New York Jets start the season 2-1, finish 5-12. Aaron Rodgers is not being re-signed. He was 6-12 over 2 seasons.
The Arizona Coyotes, who are now the Salt Lake City, is it the Yeti?
That fell through because the copyright office rejected Yeti because of the cooler company. So there are a lot of people thinking that they could be the Mammoth. There's finalists now, and unfortunately Utah Hockey Club is one of them. Although I like the logo that they came up with that would be associated with Hockey Club.
Well, they sold and moved to Salt Lake City, currently 6 points at a final playoff spot at Four Nations break in first season in Salt Lake City, and still no fucking name. Next.
The Chicago White Sox finished 41-21, the most losses in a season in the modern era, had a run differential of negative 306, and only scored 507 runs all season. The next closest team were the Angels, who scored 635.
If I may, James, you have the location wrong on that team. It is the Azerbaijan White Sox.
As dubbed by Alex.
I think he's gone through several countries by now. And finally, the Marshall Thundering Herd win 10 games for the first time since 2015. They win the Sun Belt Conference Championship game and then have to opt out of their bowl game when their coach takes another job and 36 players enter the transfer portal after Charles Huff takes the Southern Miss job. All of them would keep a house warm at night. But James, the winner of the best dumpster fire is
This is where I told you I was going to get you.
yeah. Is that actually Azerbaijan?
That is actually Azerbaijan.
I gotta send this to Alex. Oh my god, I gotta send this to Alex. Hey, whose record they break for most losses in a single season?
The New York Mets.
Thank you.
Which is something that at multiple points when they were getting close, this wonderful human being below me says that he didn't want them to break that record because he wanted to own that.
Well, and then one person we missed on there was Ed Kranepool, one of the last remaining original 1962 Mets. When we lost to Eddie, I was like, you know what? Take it.
So they set the record for most consecutive losses in a season twice. They lose 14 and then 21.
They, of course, set the record for most losses before the All-Star break with 71. How Pedro Grifol got to August 8th, I don't know. And 9 days later,
he was replaced by Grady Sizemore, who did not have his dick in a coffee cup.
Of course, just 9 days later, they are eliminated from postseason contention, which is the earliest exit since divisional play began in 1969. And you can read the last one, Jim.
And the Azerbaijan White Sox finished 45 games out of the wild card and 51 and a half games out in the American League Central when the standings complete.
Unreal. How absolutely fucking horrible do you have to be?
And there's talk that they may not be much better this year.
They're not going to be better. You didn't. Luis Robert actually said, "Get me out of here. I'd rather break a leg than play for this team."
So is that your Bill Cosby award for this year?
That is the Bill Cosby
that's kind of a running gag now, as well as how is Jim going to change the graphic to where Mike's never going to see it? I told your ass I was going to pull something on you for tonight.
You always do that. I mean, for Christ's sake, the Wisey Chronicle is. I never see that either.
I guess this could be our version of the Wisey Chronicle tonight.
Yeah, every year Jim will pick a winner in the Wiseys and screw with me with the graphic.
Oh, the Bill Cosby on Deshaun Watson was a break that I hadn't seen in you in a long time.
Oh my God, I needed it too. Oh my God, that was the best.
We're coming down to the end, folks. We've only got a couple more left.
What's next, Jim?
This will be the JC Blue Note category.
Oh, good.
The Born on Third Base Award for 2024. The nominees are Ryan Day, who was 1-7 against top 5 opponents, backed into the CFP after losing to his rival, wins a national championship with a cakewalk draw and a $20 million payroll. Bronny James is drafted by his father's team, the Los Angeles Lakers, where I still think the Celtics should have picked him one pick before and made him go play overseas for 3 years. Plays in the home opener with LeBron, becoming the first father-son duo ever to do so. He was absolutely terrible every time he's been up with the Lakers, and he appears to be no better than Mac McClung as a G League prospect. Jake Paul beat a 58-year-old Mike Tyson an MMA fighter with only 2 pro boxing bouts, and a 48th ranked fighter, and couldn't even stop Tyson on a fight that nobody saw because of buffering issues. Juan Soto signs a 15-year, $765 million contract with the Mets after a 1-year stint with the Yankees. The Mets go to the NLCS last year. The Yankees lose in the World Series. And lastly, Mercedes Moné signs with AEW in March, won the TBS championship within her first 40 days of her debut after her very close relationship with CEO Tony Khan, and has since held that title for more than 270 days. And the winner...
Before you reveal the personal attack.
How much more bandwagon can you get than Juan Soto? I mean, I understand Buckeye fans are honks and fair weather, but you got a guy who was on a team that had a $230 million payroll and finished 4th every year, and then he gets traded to a team with a $316 million payroll who goes to the World Series and gets embarrassed, and then he goes ring chasing to a team with a $321 million payroll that's 3rd all time. I'm sorry. Call The Undertaker to take the body out if anyone still thinks baseball is alive anymore.
Now, let me say this to you. He had said multiple times he wanted to play for the Mets. Is he worth $765? No. No. He's not. I have made it very clear, both in my blog and on here, that Pete Alonso should have been the number 1 priority in the offseason, and fuck him. I love the category. Your first nominee actually flipped that record on its ear in the playoff.
They should have actually been a 10 or 11 seed because of the way that they backed in and the shit draw that they had, and they should have actually been out before they got to the Oregon game. There's no rhyme or reason that they actually should have lost to Michigan the way that they did and still been benefited with a home game.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. They should have been on the road for all 4 games. I will say this, though. They did have the toughest draw. Because you go from a good Tennessee team to the number 1 team in the tournament to a Texas team with a home game, and then you pull Notre Dame, who has beaten the SEC champion and a very good Penn State team to get to that final. I mean, granted, SMU was a glorified scrimmage for them. They had the toughest draw. So he's achieved something. But yeah, I would have done Mercedes Moné if she's screwing Tony Khan and she's got a title right away. I probably would have gone with her.
I stand by my statement. Ryan Day is born with a silver spoon up his ass. Juan Soto's basically choking on an entire cutlery rack full of them right now.
Alex has responded.
Uh-oh.
He said, I'd like a hat tip for coming up with their new home.
Say that again.
He'd like a hat tip for coming up with their new home. What we got left, dude?
Our second to last category this evening is our last actual award. So whereas every award show will have best picture, best team, best whatever, and the category expands, we offer the Wisey Award for the 2024 Best Athlete.
We start with Ashton Jeanty, the phenomenal and robbed running back of the Boise State. Is it Thunder?
Broncos.
2,601 rushing yards. He was the Heisman runner-up. Honestly, to a guy who did it on both ends, both sides of the ball, at an elite level.
and finished just shy of Barry Sanders' all-time record. Had he not been bottled up in that opening round game for the Broncos, or at least for them, would have broken Barry Sanders' record with ease. Shohei Ohtani, we covered it earlier. He walked away with the Wisey Award. First ever 50-50 season in Major League Baseball history. Can't really say much more than we've already spent when he got his award earlier tonight.
Katie Ledecky, of course, again has gone out and dominated the Olympic Games, winning 2 golds, a silver, and a bronze in Paris this past summer.
Caitlin Clark, the NCAA's all-time leading scorer, the WNBA Rookie of the Year, and the #1 overall pick, and essentially now the face of the WNBA.
Saquon Barkley, 2005 rushing guards. He was the Offensive Player of the Year, and of course capped it off with a Super Bowl win just 2 weeks ago.
Josh Allen threw for 3,701 yards, 40 touchdowns, and was the NFL's MVP, just narrowly edging out Lamar Jackson as the Bills come up just short again in the AFC Championship game, but also wins at life for getting engaged to Haley Steinfeld.
Connor McDavid, 132 points, and only the second time the winner of the Conn Smythe is the loser is a part of the losing team. Excuse me, that was fucked up the way I said it. I apologize to Connor McDavid. Was a member of the losing team in the Stanley Cup Finals, but 132 points, 32 goals, and 100 assists for McDavid. Phenomenal season.
And Dakota Ditcheva in mixed martial arts, there were a lot of great champions out there, but Ditcheva went 4-0 in her PFL fights, all TKOs, none getting past the first couple of minutes of the second round, won the PFL Women's Flyweight World Championship, and also basically made $1 million and put herself as the next great fighter in women's mixed martial arts.
And the winner for the Wisey Best Athlete for 2024 is
we've got so many great names on there. Every one of them is equally better, equally up to the task of winning. Some of these have already won tonight, but you can't argue with the greatest ever.
No, and Katie Ledecky put on a show. Set the Olympic record for the 1,500 meter freestyle, won her 4th consecutive 800 meter goal. Jim, expand on the book for me.
She published her memoir, Just Add Water, My Life in Swimming, on June 11th, also revealing that she has POTS, which is a cardiovascular condition. It's a tachycardia condition that actually my best friend in DC has as well, to where your heart rate can, even going from sitting to standing, your heart rate can spike to where you may have the potential to have a seizure or pass out. And swimming is part of how she is able to deal with her POTS.
Wow. And of course was awarded with the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Biden before leaving office. I mean, when we talked about this, she dominated. She's the Michael Phelps of women's swimming right now.
The fact that she's got the world record in the 1,500, both in the short and the long pool, the short being 25 meter and the long pool 1,500 being 50 meter each length, and she's basically set her own record. Like, if you look at the top 15 times all time, they're all her. There's, like, when she broke the record most recently in 2021, the next closest girl actually had the fastest recorded time in history that was not Katie Ledecky.
Jesus. That's crazy.
And as great as the Paris Olympics were, we saw fantastic basketball finishes. We saw all the wonderful things that happen on track and field. We saw household names in women's rugby. We saw household names in women's track and field for runners in other countries. We saw, how could you not get behind Mondo Duplantis, the Swedish pole vaulter who had already locked up the gold and then still wanted to try and break his own record in a stadium full of 130,000 people. But Katie Ledecky had the most awe in a moment in the pool after winning her opening heat, where it was shown on TV that she's looking at a 7-year-old girl in the stands who's losing her shit and then basically passes out when she realizes that Katie Ledecky waved to her
That's cool.
and then gets set up with a video call 2 days later.
That's just fucking cool.
And that's why the Olympics, we talk about the World Series, we talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs, we talk about March Madness every year. The Summer and Winter Olympics are the greatest sporting events that the world puts on every single year. It's not even up for discussion.
Funny you mentioned that. It's 45 years ago yesterday, Jim.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody knows the call. Everybody knows the call. Of course, we are speaking of the Miracle on Ice, the night the college kids from the United States beat the professionals from the Soviet Union, and Al Michaels, off the top of his head, simply said, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And it has transcended broadcasting for 45 years.
Although, with what happened on Thursday night in the Four Nations final between Canada and the U.S., you would have thought that the Canadians had actually pulled off the greatest win in the history of hockey with everything that's going on politically between our country and theirs. And I can't be the only person that would have liked to see the United States win, but has absolutely zero problem cheering for the Canadians in that game as well.
No, I had no problem. Zero issue. The 3 fights in 90 seconds was pretty cool.
in the round robin game, absolutely, yeah.
When the Kachuk brothers did their best Hanson brother imitation.
Yeah, and Connor McDavid getting completely shut down the entire regulation 60 minutes of that game, and then scoring the game winner. Did you see Steve Dangle's reaction?
I have not seen Dangle's reaction yet.
I can't listen to it with the audio because I'm afraid even if I were to turn the volume down to like 10, it's going to blow out my ears.
Jesus. I'll watch it. So, Jim, that leaves us with one category left, and if it's not a regular category, it can mean only one thing. And that is the second ever inductee into the Wisey Hall of Fame. Now, for those who don't know, Jim and I go through and we see things that have jokes that have legs, or just moments that we will never, ever forget on the show. Of course, the first inductee is the only joke that has made it from New York to Georgia, and been referenced in not even like every fifth episode. And that, of course, is the clip jokes we make at the Jersey and the expense of the Charlotte Hornets. The day you turned Alex into a Jedi because he put his hood up when you said, "When I flew out of the clip." It just still, 3 years later, is still hilarious. So this year's inductee into the Wisey Hall of Fame is actually something that happened this year. It's not a holdover.
We're going to take you back, and we're going to play the clip. We're going to go back to July 28th, 2024. You guys are going to know exactly what it is the second I load it up.
We will go back to the beginning and say the Hall of Famer, the first Hall of Famer, in the history of the Wisey Translator will be Sanika Wallace, as that is the name that got us kicked off from the beginning. So, as always, I give James the first name of the night. And Jim, I'm going to go there. And it's go.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Cause they love him in London and Paris and Tokyo, America, Scotland and Canada and Mexico. They say I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
And the fact that we clapped and did not know this was happening. Because I had no idea you were doing that.
Since they're doing the crossover, a couple of weeks ago, Vic Joseph, who's the lead announcer for NXT, is from Cleveland, real name Vic Trevliante. Booker T's the co-host, the color guy on NXT, and he starts to say it, and Booker's like, "No, don't say it. And then he's like, and then he brings his name up, and all of a sudden he shows up, and he's like, "Oh my God, it worked!"
I forgot you did. I forgot the lead, and I apologize. I was going to jump right into.
Well, that's half the fun of it, is that you actually start going into it, and I got to drop the chyron on you.
I appreciate it, and I'm sorry, everybody who's watching, and if you watch this after the fact, I had no idea we were doing that. I'm not going to say his name because I know you'll play it again because that's the kind of asshole you are. We did not plan this. We did not plan the clap at the same time. Bros.
The 2025 Wise Guys Hall of Fame would like to induct Joe Hendry. Our most replayed clip in the history of this show. It was our number one off the rails segment from last year. Could it have been anything else? We had a couple of significant nominees, but we cannot stress the importance of how big this really was for our show.
650 some odd views.
It was up. It was close to 675 when I looked at it the other day.
So that many views on YouTube. Some of the other nominees were maybe the greatest quarterback breakdown in Wisey history, and that is when John Rice, the sporting Sith, during the Four Horsemen episode, says, "I can shit in a box and call it guaranteed, and it doesn't mean it is."
That was the leader in the clubhouse, and then we realized, wait a minute.
You had to go to Joe.
Joe Hendry was still on the board.
Exactly. But yeah, there's our 2025 Wise Guys Hall of Fame. I can only imagine what's going to land there in 2026.
We've got, by the time we come to you guys next week, we're already going to be 2 months deep in this year. I mean, we're going to be into March next week. And with that being said, thank you to Joe Hendry, even though he'll never see this.
I say we send it to him on Twitter. Is he on Twitter?
Yeah. He was actually doing a TNA Championship Celebration concert on their broadcast the other night, and then the Cologne show up, Primo and Epico, the Carlitos brothers or nephews or whatever they are. And who shows up? He's now known as Elijah. You remember him as Elias?
Yes. He's the one that was doing the concerts and kept getting interrupted on WWE. He said the next person who interrupts me is a dead man, and the Undertaker came out.
Yep. But the fact that we actually got an Elijah and Joe Hendry concert officially, it's the pairing that none of us needed, but we all wanted.
Exactly.
And also the fact that I actually, since we haven't really done a whole lot in wrestling for a while, we've got our Alexa Bliss return. Gabe Kidd, one of the biggest prospects in New Japan, is now signed with AEW. and also a couple of names that are looking to come back to wrestling. I don't know if it's even in a short stint at this particular point. There's been footage of her training to get back into the ring, and that's one Miss April Mendez, who a lot of people know as AJ Lee,
Really?
aka Mrs. Phil Brooks, Mrs. CM Punk.
What else have we had?
And two other names, Jess McKay and Cassie Lee, also known as the Iconics.
Real quick before we sign off, Alex's response to me telling me he did get that was, he said, "I'm kidding entirely. Wait till they break their own record for more losses this year. We might have sent him to the Republic of the Congo."
That means I got to find a new graphic for the Congo for next year, possibly.
Do the movie poster with Ice Cube and
Jesus Christ, I was thinking it before as you were saying it, you rotten son of a bitch. And that's the second time I've called you that on this show, and it's stuck.
What was the first one?
The Scissor Me Daddy ass shirt.
Speaking of Alex,
Yeah. So before we let you guys go tonight, and anyone who's going to be watching in the on demand, next week we will be back normal Wise Guys to an extent.
yes, and it's the choice of a new generation.
Okay, Wayne. Okay, yeah, I gotta add that to the board. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting something, but I got a whole week to do it. So episode 101, a new era of the Wise Guys. The first 100 are in the can. We actually will have, we said the logo's not going to change. Some of the production might be changing. It's not all going to happen, but we're going to start rolling things out little by little. So you're going to see maybe a little bit of a format change. The intro might get tweaked a little bit. Am I wrong in thinking that intro that we ran tonight was extremely catchy?
It really was. I told you, I hear the Frasier theme song in my head as I'm listening to that.
And now I'm hungry, even though it's 10 minutes.
Scrambled eggs.
I was just thinking mashed potatoes and scrambled eggs, but that's way too many carbs this late.
I'm going to bed. I got
Everybody, we want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. We want to thank everyone who's actually been with us through the first 100. Here's to another 100. Michael, I've said it before. I will say it countless times before. 130 episodes on my channel would never have happened had you not dragged me on to this show originally 3.5 years ago. I love you. You are my brother, and this is here's to 3.5 more years. Let's get to 5 and really see what happens.
Absolutely, and I love you too, bro. This has been amazing. I'm glad I browbeat the shit out of you to come on and do that. But I will tell you this. Never mind me getting you on here. Thank you for all the work you do behind the scenes. This would not be anywhere near what it is without the hours that you put in to make it look as good as it does, because God knows I don't do that. We always joke, Jim is the technical producer and I line up the guests and do some of the content. But yeah, this has been a ton of fun. 100 episodes in the can. Let's come out swinging next Sunday, huh?
How ironic is it that when we first started this, I was only doing the blog and you were doing all the video and the audio, and now because of the way that things have happened, I'm the one doing all the video. I'm going to be recording one right after we hop off here tonight to go up tomorrow morning, and you're the one doing all the writing.
It's insanity how things flip, but it's been an absolute fun fucking ride, and let's go.
How the turns have tabled.
Yeah, I want to do one of these for 300.
We'll both be 50 by then. God damn it.
Fuck. Yeah, we will be.
I was told there would be no mats.
There wasn't. We just kind of figured it out.
Everyone, again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you if you're going to watch in the on demand, and we will see you guys next week. Mike, I will be in touch probably sometime tomorrow. This will be great because I don't have any video to cut for this week.
Amen.
You'll
have an
said
entire
we're back to once a month. We're back to I'm going to set up in the living room. It's
Yeah. No, you'll have plenty to edit when the girls get done tomorrow night. So keep an eye out for that. The W2's podcast start recording tomorrow night. First episode will come in the coming weeks. They're going to be everywhere we are because I'm the one that's doing the RSS feed out to everything.
and we'll actually have more for you guys about that in the coming weeks until they can get off the ground. We did throw the logo up earlier. Go back and check that out. But again, it is the W2s. So do we really want to say what it actually stands for at this point, or do we let them do it?
If they can't figure it out from the logo, people have got to go back to bed and wake up.
Yeah, but that's actually going to help them go to bed.
That's true.
Yeah, but then when they wake up, they won't remember a goddamn thing. It's basically like taking the blue pill.
Yeah. Dude, one thing you've got to look at when you get the footage, look at the outfits. You will cry laughing.
There's going to be a whole lot of tears going on. Me crying, laughing, and then they're going to be, and then you and I are going to be crying when they try and beat the shit out of us for that little stunt that we pulled tonight.
No, I'm not going to cry. I've already told them I'm holding all the hardware hostage that they talk shit about me on. I'm taking it away.
From us to you in advance, Michael, please supply them with popcorners.
Yes, absolutely.
Considering one of them was just introduced to them earlier this week, and had an epiphany of some type.
She did, and I will make sure tomorrow's going to be one of those weird travel days for us. But I will let Steph know that popcorners going to be a part of their show.
Everyone, have yourselves a wonderful night. We will see you guys next. Next Sunday night. And enjoy the little celebratory outro. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.